All right. So today, for this interview, we have as our guest Irene Hernandez-Martinez. She is a CIP, a former CIP alumni. And we're going to be asking her a couple of questions in regards to her CIP experience and also to any experience that she acquired after graduation. So, Irene, would you like to briefly introduce yourself really quick?
Yes, thank you, Luis. Thank you so much for having me today. My name, like you said, my name's Irene, and I am a CIP alum. I am an alum of the business school at University of the Pacific, and I am class of 2018. I have to do the math. I always forget. But yes, I was a transfer student from San Joaquin Delta College, and I was at Delta for 3 years before I transferred over to UOP, and happy to be here with you today.
Awesome. So that is, thank you very much for introducing yourself. We're gonna start off with the first question, just to get straight to the interview. So
Yes.
first and foremost, I want to ask you really quick, what is your background? For instance, when were you born? Where are you from? And what is your personal upbringing as far as like your childhood and adolescence?
Okay, yes, thank you. So I am a sibling of five. If it's five of us, it's three girls and two boys.
Mhm.
And both of my parents immigrated from Mexico. They're from Jalisco, and my three older siblings, my two brothers and my older sister, were born in Zamora, Michoacan, but my parents came over to the US and had myself and my younger sister. And I was born in Klamath Falls, Oregon. So I would say I was born there, but basically raised here in Stockton. And yeah, since my family came over here to Stockton due to work, there
Mhm.
were they because of work for they worked in the fields, and since then I started going to school here, and from there my oldest sister went to school. She was the first one in the family to go to college, so always in my mind I was like, I want to be like her. She was like my role model growing up,
Mm,
and I didn't know how I was gonna do it, but I knew that there was scholarships out there, and I knew college was expensive, but I knew that there was a way, especially for first generation college students. Even though my sister went to school, since our parents didn't go to school, I was still considered first generation. So I knew that that was something I wanted to do right after finishing high school. I finished high school from Edison. I graduated from Edison High School in South Stockton, and I didn't know what my plans were going to be right after high school. So I knew that I didn't want to waste or at least get in debt right away, right after high school. So I knew that my best option was to go to a community college. And I totally don't regret it. My time at Delta was, it was really good. I didn't really do much at Delta. It was just um, go to class, then go to work, and then go to class. So while my senior year of high school is when I got a part-time job at Lowe's at a
oh,
retail store. Yes, and we were talking about this with my brother yesterday. I was at Lowe's for 5 years. So I started my last year of high school, and I left Lowe's my last year at UOP. So my
oh,
whole college career, I worked part-time at Lowe's, and so from there, I went to Delta. I started doing my general ed classes. I didn't meet with the counselor until I believe like after a year, because I don't know why I didn't meet with them right away. Because after I met with them, I realized that I did too many classes from the same category. So that's why I ended up doing 3 years, because I was overlapping my classes. And about CIP, I had heard about the program through my sister because she had tried applying for CIP, but at the time she didn't have her legal status here, her residency, so she wasn't eligible to receive the scholarship. And so I heard about it through that was the first time I heard about CIP. But then after that, they had came and gave a presentation at Delta for transfer students. And I
Mm.
said, wow, like that would be a really, great opportunity if what would happen, if I would have applied and get the scholarship. So from there, I met with the counselor, made sure I applied to UOP and met all the qualifications, and then I applied to the scholarship. But before I go there, Lise, I think getting ahead of myself.
You're fine.
Did I touch on the background pretty good?
Yeah, you gave me like a good concise background of who you are, your childhood and your adolescence. Keep
Mhm.
going. It's good.
It's going okay.
Yeah.
I forgot to add another thing that um when was it? 2014. It was a year after I graduated high school. My dad did get deported. So it was a little hard going to school and working and not having, the main head of household present, but we were able to manage, through that. And that is one of the reasons why stayed working part-time, because I had to find a way to like help my mom and help myself with either the bills we had or to be able to get around. I remember buying my first car with the scholarships that I got, or not the scholarships, but the financial aid from Delta. I was
Mhm.
able to purchase my first car. It was a 98 Honda Accord.
Mm.
And it's, we think that like a car is like a luxury, or it's like something that, oh, we don't need it, but it definitely was very helpful to have a car and be able to go from work and school and back and forth. So I'm very I was very blessed to, I don't know how, like you're in a position where like I don't know how it's gonna work, but then it ends up working out, and you learn about all these programs, financial aid, and then you just see like all this money coming in to help with like books, and especially that buying myself a car, and it works out at the end. So very happy for that.
That's great. And I really do appreciate everything that you've been saying so far. And I wanted to touch back on like your CIP experience and like applying, how that process was. And you did
Mhm.
answer that part of the second question. But I just wanted
Yes.
to ask, how was that process applying? How was it all like overall? How did it go for you? Were you nervous? What were some of the challenges that you went through?
Mhm. Yes, I was nervous, especially writing, I think, is it the personal statement
Yeah.
where you describe like we're talking now, like your background and what it's meant to pursue a higher education, to go to school, and especially being a first generation college student. And I remember, oh, and I think the other part of the question was, what is like, how are you involved with your community, or what does community service mean to you? And to me, that is something that I was always passionate about, because in high school I was always very busy with clubs, and one of them was Interact.
Mhm.
And Interact, like they really focus on doing community service and being there for your community. I think what I would do back then was to give tutoring to elementary students.
Mm.
And then once I heard about C.I.P and what they did, I'm like, wow, what an opportunity to continue that and continue being mentors to the younger students. So I worked on my application. I had my sister look over it, and I applied. I was very nervous to submit it, but I went ahead and did it, and I said, well, we'll hope for the best. And after you submit the application,
Yeah.
the application, and there's like a grace period you have to wait to hear of the decisions. It was funny because I never got an email whether it said congratulations or I got that. Sorry, Lisa. Are we able to cut the recording that
No, it's fine. No worries.
Ben, Ben. Bella. Here. Yeah. No. We're gonna put you down. Go play with your toys. Uh-oh.
It's good. It's
Oh
good.
my God. Zyla. It's okay. Ira, you want your milk? Yeah, then. 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 Yeah. Okay, sorry. So what was I saying? Okay, so instead of getting a congratulations or like a, oh, you know, you weren't accepted into the program, I got a call from, at the time was the assistant CIP director,
Uh-huh.
Alicia Perry.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, did you guys get to meet her, or I'm not sure if she's still,
Yeah. Alicia?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did meet her. She's great.
yeah. And so I was like thrown off. I'm like, oh, you know, yes, I did apply for CIP. She said, yes. So I wanted to inform me that um in order for you to be able to receive the full scholarship, you do need to do a few things in order to be able to receive the full amount of the scholarship. So basically I had borrowed or received too much from Delta,
Uh-huh.
to where you have to have a certain amount to be able to receive the full amount at a 4 year. So I'm like,
Okay.
oh, you know, I'll go ahead and take care of that. So yeah, I believe I had to take a loan to pay that amount back to federal financial aid to be
Mm-hmm.
able to receive the full scholarship at UOP.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and do that. But then at the end of the call, before the end of the call, I asked, but does that mean I got into the program? Like, am I? She said
Yeah.
yes, congratulations. And I was like, oh my gosh. I remember I was about to go into my accounting class at
Yeah.
Delta, and I couldn't believe it. I was like super happy. And I didn't believe it until I got like a follow-up email after her call and letting me know like the letting me know about the CIP retreat, I believe.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
great.
so I was really happy. Yeah.
And since you mentioned the CIP retreats, I wanted to ask,
Yes.
how was the CIP retreat for you? Like how was that
Mhm.
opportunity just going? Did you establish good bonds with other members? How was that for you overall?
Yes. Um at first, like as we mentioned earlier, Luis, going into a program, especially transferring from a community college to a 4 year, you don't know what to expect. Especially because you're going into a program not knowing anyone. For the most part, yeah, I didn't know anyone that was going to be in the program with me.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I felt a little nervous, but then once the CIP retreat came and you go in and you check in and you find out what the agenda will look like, what you're gonna do. And I think like the very first day, like they talk about that. Like they say, like, I know we're all nervous, we don't know each other, but at the end of the retreat, you're all gonna feel like we're family,
Mm-hmm.
and or not feel like family right away, but create that connection and bond, and be able to, you know, have each other's back and support. And I really felt that from the very first day, that they really were gonna take those days to not just worry about like the academics or how we're gonna get through the time at UOP, but like focus on ourselves,
Yeah.
reflection, and also how are we gonna be there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely appreciate how, sorry, sorry, Lu.
No worries.
I definitely appreciate how like the mentors,
Uh-huh.
the retreat leaders that have been there at UOP for like a year or two more,
That's good.
really opened up and felt and made us feel welcome during the retreat. Bless you.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
after the retreat, how was your after getting accepted and after the retreat, how was your campus experience, your campus life, especially with CIP?
Yes, if it wasn't for CIP, Luis, I honestly feel like as a transfer student, it's a little harder to feel connected to the university overall. like compared to like the students that are there as starting as a freshman, because they build friendships and connections, especially with like teachers. But I feel very blessed to be part of CIP because I didn't really feel that like void. I felt that I was part of like a support system that was going to be with me for the remaining the 2 years that I was going to be at UOP. So if it wasn't for CIP, I feel like I would have been like in the blind of didn't know how many classes I should be signed up for. I also like from part of CIP, I got feedback about like professors, like what to expect, the course load. And then it was a little different just because my being a transfer student, I had to focus on like my upper like concentration classes. So I
Yeah.
didn't have to really do like the general ed. And I was very happy about that I was able to get that done at Delta because I heard that some of the general ed classes at UOP were a lot
Mhm.
difficult. So I would just think like, oh man, like if I would have came as a freshman, I don't know how well I would have done.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely getting advice from like the underclassmen that were there as freshmen from CIP was very helpful. And Allison definitely having those when Allison was a director, Allison Dumas, she had a weekly meetings with all of us and made sure that we registered for our classes. I don't know if now they still require you to be scheduled a minimum of 16 units per semester.
Yeah.
Is that still the case? Okay. So yeah, I feel like by ensuring that you're registering on time, have your classes, and go to class, do the best you can, do all your homework and on exams, that would make sure that you would be on top of your credits and you would graduate on time.
Oh,
Because that is one thing for CIP that I remember, that our graduation rate is a lot higher than the universities overall.
yeah.
So we're very proud of that. And I could definitely say that support system that the students and the director gave during my time there definitely made an impact on that.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Well, the following question after that would be, after you graduated, how was life after you? Like, did you immediately go work at the designated area that you majored in? How was that for you afterwards?
So after I finished UOP, I did apply to other jobs, but I ended up staying at UOP and became a Pacific staff as a coordinator of summer sessions. And it wasn't for the major that I had graduated with because my concentration was human resources.
Yes.
And so it was a lot different than the job that I had applied for had more of like a marketing focus.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of like felt like, oh, maybe because I had double concentration. It was management and entrepreneurship. And I told myself, oh, maybe I should have took a few extra classes and also got a concentration in marketing. But I was still able to use what I learned in my classes because for business majors, they still have you take like overall classes, and marketing was one of them. So I was able to apply what I learned there to the job that I got right after graduating. And then from that position, it evolved into helping more in the registrar's office.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it didn't give me that HR experience, but I was still able to make an impact in the current students' life by assisting with like registering at the registrar's office, and also assisting. I already forgot what it's called, but when a student submits like I already forgot at least what it's called. And I would have this meeting like weekly. That's how that's how you that's how you could tell that like after you move on, you like block it out. But I would help with like students submitting. I think when like they would miss a class and they were trying to like repeat the class. So like so there was like the registered office had different rules, and then they could submit a waiver to like try to
We
say
take a,
like why they want to repeat it. Yeah, I forget what it's called. Oh my God.
is it like
It'll
an
come
appeal?
back. It's appeal, but then it's something else. It was called like a certain word.
Oh, okay. Well, it's in
Yeah.
you're helping students like do that type of work, right?
Yeah. So I did that and I stayed there for 3 years.
Okay.
And after 3 years, then I just told myself, well, if it's not for what I studied, I want to at least experience something in HR before I stay where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking and oh, and then before I even continued to, and then another reason why I stayed at Pacific was because I wanted to do their MBA program. And at the time, they ended up getting rid of the program while I was working because of low enrollment.
Mm,
And so then I was like, oh no, like, what am I going to do now? However, that still didn't stop me from pursuing a master's.
that's great.
So while I was at UOP, I enrolled in the online MBA program at CSU Stanislaus.
Mhm.
So then I went ahead and pursued that. And I told myself, I know I'm going to get in debt and I'm going to get student loans, but at least I want to get it done before I start a family, and before I have this little one here. Because
Yeah.
I've seen students, I totally admire them and I give them props of being a parent, a full-time parent and a full-time student at the same time. But I've heard that it's really hard doing that. So I knew that I wanted to get my MBA and get that out of the way. So I ended up getting that a year after I graduated UOP. So I finished that in 2021.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I did that while I was at UOP, and then right after I graduated, that was in May 2021, and then I started the job where I'm at now in August 2021.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to share, or shall I move on to my next question?
You could move on to the next question, please.
Sounds great. Well, so far, like you've been giving like very enriching answers, so I truly
Oh, thank
appreciate the
you.
interview.
Oh, you're welcome.
I do have one final question, and I still have like a couple more, but due to the sake of time, just one more
Yes.
question.
Okay.
Which is there any advice you would give to current CIP students who are experiencing hard times throughout their time at UOP?
Yes, I would say, and I think I've said it before, I think at the time during or when COVID started, had I was asked to do like a video on like what are some encouraging words to like give students at the time that we're going through like the COVID and how they started doing virtual classes. And what I had mentioned in that video was although we're going to face different challenges, whether it's in the class, whether it's the exams or the professor or outside factors as like at home,
Mm-hmm.
and whether it could be like at school, at home, or sometimes things happen where we might feel like we're not able to fit in, or like others may, I feel like that was one of the things in the program, like, and I didn't like it, but like when students weren't being proactive or able or actively participating in the CIP events or community service,
Mm-hmm.
like others made them feel like that guilt, like, oh, you're not participating but you're getting the scholarship.
Uh-huh.
And that was one thing like I didn't like doing, because at the end of the day it's like we all know what we're contributing and how we can contribute, because I feel like if one student has a lot going on in their life and if they can only dedicate an hour to a week to community service, like that's a lot.
Yeah.
So like I feel like we can't just say like, oh, you have to do this amount of hours, everybody has to do this amount, because everyone could be different.
Uh-huh.
So I would just say that to not let any of those factors um any of those factors put them down and continue moving forward. So whatever it is that they're going through or being faced temporarily, to instead of putting them down, use that as like encouragement and like a force to like push forward and continue going hard, because it's gonna pay off at the end. And once you're there, crossing the stage, getting your degree, you're gonna say, "Wow, it was worth it." I did this, of course, with the support of a program such as CIP, and not just like financial support, but having that support from others, and knowing that you're not alone in this journey. I feel like that to me was definitely what helped me get through get through the years at UOP.
Wow. Well, that's very
Yeah.
insightful and definitely thank you
Mhm.
very much for,
Mhm.
showing, demonstrating that vulnerability that you need to have
Yes.
to help others
Mhm.
and make sure that you're encouraging at the same time. Well,
Yeah.
with that means, I believe we have probably like 8 minutes because I know that
Okay.
Zoom shuts down after like 40-minute sessions.
Oh, okay.
So, so for this interview, we'll conclude here. So let me just
Okay.
stop the recording.
Sounds good. Okay, Luis.